Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Reviews by James. Today we're moving on up from the Master System to the Sega Genesis with Alex Kidd's first adventure in the 16-bit era, Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle.
This is the only Alex Kidd game I own a physical copy of, so fortunately we'll be going with the more authentic route in this review by playing it on the actual Sega Genesis rather than booting up the Virtual Console. So let's stick this game in and see what it's all about. But you can't forget the history. Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle was released in late 1989 in Japan and in January 1990 in the rest of the world, making it one of the first batches of releases for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive depending on your region. The newly released Sega system needed a familiar face and a killer app, but did this game deliver? We'll have to wait and see. The plot is actually outlined in the game itself. Living on the planet Ares, Alex Kidd learns that his father, King Thor, is still alive and being held captive somewhere on the planet Paper Rock. I'm just going to assume that there's no continuation of any kind in this world, because in the first game, his brother's name is Egil, and now it's Eagle, and his father's name is King Thunder, not Thor. However, digging a little deeper, I found out that Eagle and Egil were actually the same person, and Thor was the god of thunder, so maybe I'm wrong. Either way, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. So yeah, that's pretty much the story. Alex is looking for his lost father. The game starts up to a very energetic title screen of Alex pogoing around like a madman. This game has actual options too, like changing the difficulty and controls, which is something that the other games in the series could have sorely used. When the first level begins, you immediately take note of how similar this game is to Alex Kidd in Miracle World. For 1, you can punch and break blocks again, 2, you can kill enemies, and 3, the music is the same, and finally 4, when you die, you turn into a ghost. Sure, the mechanics are the same, but this game adds a lot of changes, for the better and for the worse. I do like being able to find hidden areas by jumping on the ground, and I'm glad to see that this game added a ton of bonus areas because as far as I know, the first game has only 1. Plus, I do like that when you punch certain bricks, they zoom over to the right and can even take down enemies. A third bonus is that you can crawl and punch at the same time. Boy, would this have come in handy in Miracle World. However, one mechanical change I hate is the new jumping mechanics. You no longer can jump and punch at the same time. Instead, Alex Kidd does this extremely unreliable drop kick attack. Now, supposedly you can break blocks and kill enemies with it, which would be an excellent bonus if it really ever worked, but it's too unreliable. The strangest thing about it is if you jump and hold down the button, Alex never kicks. But if you hit the button and let go, he'll execute the drop kick while jumping. I don't know about you, but when I jump in a platformer, I hold the jump button down. Guess what? You remember the rock, paper, scissors matches from the first game? Well, those return too. This time I couldn't cheat and look up the correct combinations either. Thankfully though, it's not as punishing as it was in the first game if you lose. Rather than just one game, it's best 2 out of 3. Plus it shows in a thought bubble of what your opponent might choose. So if your reaction is good, you can win every time. If you do lose, an anvil falls down on your head and unfortunately you lose a life. Interesting fact for you. Did you know that in the Japanese version of this game, when you lose, instead of an anvil falling down on you, your clothes disappear, leaving you completely buck naked, except for a little leaf to cover up your manhood? Man, Japanese people are weird. Even worse is you have to play rock, paper, scissors to just buy things at a shop, which is pretty dumb if you ask me. The music has also been downgraded. I've never been a fan of the way most of the Sega Genesis music sounded, and this is no exception. Listen to the song that plays when Alex rides the helicopter, for instance. I'd rather listen to nails scratching against a chalkboard. Most of the music just isn't energetic or enjoyable. There has been a lot of complaints on my end, but I do feel they're justified so far. Now let's take a look at some of the better aspects of the game. For one, the control is as tight as Sonic the Hedgehog, and is pretty much perfect. Furthermore, I really think the new level design has been changed for the better. They don't feel like marathons anymore, and with a few exceptions don't take as much out of you as the other two games did. Another upgrade is that it's just not as cryptic to continue your game anymore. Once you get a game over, just go to the options menu and select continue, and that's it. It does cost more money to continue in this game, however. Dying is different in this game in the sense that you don't respawn right where you got killed. In fact, it usually takes you back to the start of the stage, which is a hard fact to cope with. But since levels feel easier and they have multiple pathways to the exit to boot, it never really felt like too much of a downgrade. The level variety is about the same as Miracle World, and nowhere near as diverse as the Lost Stars, but it feels very familiar to the first game in that regard. I think the enemies here are much more varied than the other games, and I must say they are probably my favorite in the whole series. Most of the old power-ups like the motorcycle and the helicopter return, but the new pogo stick power-up is my favorite, although I was only able to enjoy it for a short spurt of time. The power-ups are just as helpful as they were in Miracle World, which is good to know. Although there was one instance where I got the helicopter and it lasted only a few seconds, much to my dismay. The look of this game is just average. I say this because I know the Sega Genesis can do much better. In fact, if this game was published on the Master System, I can't see why it would look much different. Sure, the system was early in its lifespan, so it is somewhat excusable as to not knowing the limitations of the hardware, but other games like Altered Beast, which debuted before it, look better in my view. The colors are nowhere near as vibrant and varied as the first two games, and the sprites, especially Alex Kidd himself, have little to no appeal. Alex is the goofiest he's ever looked, and he just doesn't look as lovable as in past iterations. Overall, Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle is a decent game, but it's definitely not a killer app that the Sega Genesis could have used at the time. Many call it the best in the series, yet on the other hand, sites like IGN gave it a 4.5 out of 10, which I feel is incredibly too harsh. I'd probably be somewhere between the two spectrums. There's genuine fun to be had with Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, and it's pretty enjoyable. Sega fixed several issues that Alex Kidd in Miracle World had, but created some new ones in the process too. Overall, it's a good sequel, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not hard to see why he would never make another appearance on the Sega Genesis. If you enjoyed Alex Kidd in Miracle World, you definitely like this game, but me personally, it doesn't have the charm or consistency of its predecessors. I'd recommend it though if you plan on playing some Alex Kidd games. Just don't expect anything mind-blowing out of it. Thanks so much for watching Game Reviews by James. If you haven't watched the reviews I made of Alex Kidd in Miracle World and Alex Kidd the Lost Stars, make sure to check them out if you're interested. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video and also that you'll check back later for more reviews. Have a great day.